Will you check under the bed and make sure there's no Disney executives under there?
How does this even make any sense?
It makes perfect sense. I think the problem is you.
So Snow White slept and waited for her prince to come, but he never did. Because a woman shouldn't have to depend on a man. Snow White was brought back to life.
No longer 1937.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
Rachel Zegler just got absolutely smoked. And guess who's lighting the fire this time? South Park. Yeah, the animated wrecking crew just made her the star of their latest hit piece, and trust me, they weren't handing out hugs. Their fake movie? Oh, it's a masterpiece called Woke White: The Reinvention. Because apparently, ruining childhood classics is Disney's new business model? You thought it was weird when Cartman randomly turned into a black woman? You still haven't forgiven Hollywood for turning Indiana Jones into a yoga instructor with a whip? Congrats, you're officially what Disney executives call a problematic relic. And South Park? They didn't just poke fun. They dropped an anvil on Rachel's already sinking career and smiled while doing it.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business. Thanks.
Meanwhile, poor Rachel's flailing harder than a fish on a trampoline. She went from "who's that" to "oh no, not her again" in record time. And now, thanks to South Park, she's officially been immortalized as a national joke. A cartoon-level joke, no less. Iconic behavior, honestly. And just when you think it can't get worse for Miss Big Mouth, oh, it does.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Because apparently, Rachel didn't just take the L quietly. No, she went full meltdown mode behind the scenes. Sources say she's furious, like throwing furniture and threatening to call out on a cartoon furious. And no, she's not laughing it off. There's not a single chuckle happening over at Team Zegler HQ. Instead of shrugging it off like every other celebrity South Park's roasted over the past 25 years, Rachel decided to demand that Comedy Central pull the episode. Yes, you read that right. She actually called her team and tried to strong-arm a cable network into banning South Park. Because clearly, the solution to public humiliation is even more public humiliation. She reportedly called the episode defamatory, targeted, and, my personal favorite, dangerously humiliating. Girl, it's South Park. That's literally the job description, but hold on, we're not done dragging yet. Because as if getting roasted by South Park wasn't enough public humiliation for 1 week, the universe decided Rachel needed bonus rounds.
So Snow White slept and waited for her prince to come, but he never did.
Enter The Simpsons. Yep, even The Simpsons, a show that's basically part of Disney's own empire, jumped into the roast session like it was open mic night at a comedy club. They dropped their own parody of Rachel's Snow White disaster, and spoiler alert, it wasn't exactly flattering. In their version, it's called Snow Woke, the reimagining. Because why be subtle when you can just swing a sledgehammer instead? And there's Snow White, a preachy, narcissistic princess who thinks fairy tales are beneath her, true love is a scam, and audiences are apparently peasants who should be grateful for her existence. Charming, right? So instead of falling asleep and waiting for Prince Charming, this Snow White just keeps ranting about self-empowerment until literally nobody shows up.
Rachel, can you tell us a little bit about your version of Snow White?
Yeah, I mean, Snow White is the girl you remember, but she's definitely made for the modern age, and there's such an emphasis on what it really means to be the fairest of them all. And for Snow White, it's coming to terms with finding herself and finding her inner voice and finding a sense of agency so that she can be a just ruler and a wonderful queen, because there's another one in town who's not so much like that.
Honestly, it's starting to look like all of Hollywood is forming a conga line just to roast Rachel Zegler. and Disney's either too scared or too tired to stop it. You'd think after getting clowned by 2 legendary TV shows in the same month, Rachel might, I don't know, sit quietly and rethink her life choices? Nope. She's doubling down like it's the finals of Bad Decisions Olympics, and somehow she's winning gold. And just when you think the roast parade is slowing down, bam! Guess who jumps into the ring next? Jack Black. Yes, the living legend himself reportedly confronted Rachel after her disaster class interviews went viral. And according to insiders, it hit her so hard she basically needed therapy afterwards.
It's the most emotional experience that a person can go through to know that what they're working on is something that has reached a generation of people. You know, this is a classic film that established the Disney name, and now I'm a part of that legacy to some degree, and it's not something I take lightly, and it's just the most emotional experience to see little girls dress up as Snow White, and I hope that they will for years to come.
Rachel was supposed to be Disney's next golden child. Snow White was supposed to be her coronation, her welcome to the A-list party. Instead, she's starring in the world's most expensive PR nightmare. And Jack? He didn't just blame her messy interviews. Word is, he also threw Gal Gadot under the bus, calling out both of their performances as stiff, soulless, and about as magical as a wet sock.
And enough champagne to fill the Nile. Kal-El, no. Max Lord, you're putting yourself and everyone else in grave danger. I need you to give me the stone. What happened to it?
What did you say?
So exciting. Very interested to find the men who bought those.
Why should I help you?
Because we're asking you nicely. Just tell me what it costs to get her away from me. Name a price. I'll buy the whole damn boat if I have to. Who are you? The lasso of Hastia compels you to reveal the truth. Now, who are you? But who?
Enough.
I said enough. As Amazons, this is our duty. You have no idea what kind of power you're dealing with.
In short, no chemistry, no heart, no connection, and no box office numbers either. Tough look, Rachel. Tough look. And it gets juicier, because even the big guns of commentary, Joe Rogan and Bill Maher, decided to tag in and throw a few punches. Now, these two don't agree on much, like ever, but when it comes to Rachel Zegler's woke Snow White remake, they were basically finishing each other's sentences. Their shared conclusion? This might just be Disney's biggest cell phone ever. The first warning signs came when Disney announced they were reimagining Snow White by removing the whole waiting for true love part. You know, the literal plot. Instead, they pitched an empowered princess who don't need no man, or dwarfs, or apparently even an audience. Sure, sounds noble on paper. In practice, it's like buying a pizza and being served a plate of kale with a TED Talk. Fans didn't just hesitate, they ran for the hills.
Now you wash the dishes.
Now you wash the dishes.
You tidy up the room.
You tidy up the room.
You clean the fireplace.
You clean those cobwebs.
And I'll use the broom.
He'll use the broom.
Meanwhile, Rachel's old social media post resurfaced, where she basically told half the country, anyone who voted for Trump, to go touch grass and never know peace. Lovely, because if you're starring in a $200 million family movie, the smart move is definitely to alienate half the families before opening weekend. Genius-level marketing, truly. And if you thought Rachel's political genius ended there, oh no, she kept digging. Cue Bill Maher, who took one look at this dumpster fire and basically said, "Hold my beer."
The controversies surrounding Disney's Snow White remake show that we are still in the thick of the culture wars. Oh, have we been following the Snow White?
Actually, the first time hearing of this.
Really?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Good for you.
Well, the two stars are Gal Gadot,
happy for you.
Who she was in the Israeli Defense Forces. She's Israeli, and then Rachel Zegler plays Snow White. I think Gal plays the. I was not a child, so I don't follow them. I don't know fairy tales. I never read comic books. But something is this the one with the poison apple and the whatever it is?
Yeah, it's the witch.
Okay, so they're in, and Rachel Zegler, being 23 or whatever she is, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantata is the only global solution. So the two stars hate each other. And then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive. You'd think the most progressive thing would be get people jobs, and dwarfs want to work. And
It's like an honest golden employment opportunity for dwarves.
There's not that many scripts that come down the pike.
No, there's 7 of them.
That has, and there's 7 dwarf jobs here. But because I think it was Peter Dinklage said this is, this is not right. This is demeaning. And they were like, what? We just want to work. We're dwarves. So, ho, ho, ho.
The message from the public was louder than Rachel's Twitter rants. You can't slap the original fans across the face, gut the heart out of a classic, insult half the country, and then expect people to show up for popcorn and smiles. Who knew? Meanwhile, behind the scenes at Disney, it was full-blown panic mode. Whispers started flying faster than Rachel could alienate a demographic. Insiders claimed the executives were absolutely blindsided, like they genuinely didn't realize that insulting your entire customer base might backfire. Some said the creative team tried to pull a Hail Mary mid-production, frantically slapping together reshoots that cost millions more. Others said they brought in a special media consultant, whose entire job was basically to follow Rachel around and make sure she didn't keep digging the grave deeper with every interview. Spoiler, it didn't work.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. I watched it for the first time in probably 17 years. The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
Every time she opened her mouth, it was like tossing another match into the bonfire. She told reporters she was proud of ditching any mention of true love. She said Snow White was more relevant than ever. She basically wagged her finger at audiences, scolding them for daring to like the original story. It was a masterclass in how to torch goodwill, set it on fire, and then dance around the ashes while singing girl boss slogans. At this point, Disney executives were basically standing around like firefighters with a broken hose, asking if maybe streaming could magically save them. Some floated the idea of letting Snow White just quietly die in theaters and praying it would perform better on Disney+, where nobody has to admit they watched it. Others whispered about a sequel, one that might awkwardly backtrack and pretend the first movie didn't happen. You know, the cinematic equivalent of deleting your drunk tweets and hoping no one screenshots them first. But the damage was already done. The once invincible Disney brand was looking shakier than Rachel's PR strategy. And it wasn't just about Snow White. With flops like Lightyear and Strange World already staining the books, Snow White crashing and burning was like tossing an anchor onto a sinking ship. Behind the curtain, investors were reportedly sharpening their pitchforks, because nothing says solid business plan like spending $200 million to get dunked on by The Simpsons.
Disney decided they were going to remake Snow White, but they decided they were going to remake it and they were going to make it as woke as they possibly could. It opened week 1 to $43 million in the United States. So this movie is going to lose Disney hundreds of millions of dollars. And all they had to do was make Snow White just like the one from 1937. Instead, Disney wokeified it. They got Gal Gadot, who's actually way better looking than Rachel Zegler, playing the evil queen.
And then came the saddest chapter of all, Rachel's very own personal premiere. On March 25th, 2025, Rachel gathered a few of her ride-or-die friends, Ela Mason, Jorge Mason, Remy, and Maria Isabel de Mason, for what was supposed to be her big, proud, I made it moment.
2 tickets, please.
For which movie?
Except the theater looked like the set of a zombie apocalypse movie. Seriously, it was emptier than a vegan BBQ in Texas. There were so few people there, you could practically hear the popcorn machine crying in the corner. Still, her friends tried to salvage it. No one knows if they rented out the theater to save face or if the public just naturally ghosted. Either way, the vibe was less Hollywood Queen and more awkward birthday party where even the cake feels embarrassed. Ouch! Meanwhile, back at Disney HQ, the mood wasn't much better. Big-name directors and producers were watching Snow White nosedive with horror, like passengers on a crashing plane, realizing the pilot's busy arguing on Twitter.
Disney shareholders ought to be infuriated and demanding answers on where nearly $400 million of capital went for Snow White. The movie was awful, and I can't even visually tell where the money went. I genuinely can't. That movie looked like shit. The script was shit. The direction was shit. The cinematography was after-school special shit. Seriously, people, Disney shareholders should absolutely be fucking pissed watching this shit. And the music was awful. awful.
Rumors started swirling that major layoffs were coming, because apparently, when you stack up multi-hundred-million-dollar disasters like Lightyear, Strange World, and now Snow White, someone's gotta take the fall. And spoiler alert, it's probably not going to be the execs who greenlit Woke White. Investors were furious. Imagine spending $200 million on a movie that makes people angrier than parking tickets. Imagine expecting doll sales and costume lines, and instead getting warehouses full of sad, dusty merchandise nobody wants even on clearance. The message from the public couldn't be clearer if it was lit up in Times Square. You can't butcher a classic, insult your audience, and then cry about it when nobody shows up. Disney thought they could sell everyone kale and call it candy. Turns out, people just wanted the candy. And Rachel Zegler? She's standing in the wreckage, smiling for cameras that, well, honestly aren't even pointed at her anymore.